Um, Good morning, Ms. Martorana. My name is Cheryl Renatza. I'm going to read some identifying information into the record. I ask you to verify that information, and then I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Jackson as your case has been assigned to her. Okay?
Yes, ma'am.
So you are Michelle Martorana. Your DOC number is 547-177. You are classified as a first felony offender. You're here today because you've requested a commutation of your sentence. You were sentenced in the 26 JDC Bossier in March of 2009 for an attempted second-degree murder, and you received a term of 48 years. Is that information correct?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, thank you. Would you answer Ms. Jackson's questions?
Yes, ma'am.
Good morning, Ms. Martorana. How are you?
I'm a little scared, but I'm okay.
I can understand that. I can understand your nervousness. Your case has been assigned to me, so I'll be starting the questions for the board. And it's just an effort to find out as much as we can about you to help us make this decision, all right?
Yes, ma'am.
So let's start with some easy questions. You're 34 years old, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And you received a 48-year sentence for attempted second-degree murder, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
How much of that sentence have you actually served?
I've been locked up for 14 years and 4 months.
All right. So you were around age 20 when this offense occurred?
I was 19, 9 days before my 20th birthday.
Okay. And at the age of 19, almost 20, you already had 2 children, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And they were both infants, is that
Yes,
correct?
Yes, ma'am.
The child involved in this case was 17 days old, is that correct?
Ma'am.
And the other child was 11 months old.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So let's talk about that situation. How did you find yourself at age 19, the mother of 2 infants?
Well, I wasn't emotionally stable.
What does that mean?
I was on psych pills and I was in a domestic violence relationship.
Let me ask you this. Did each child have a different father?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so the 11-month-old had one father and then the 17-day-old had another father, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Which father were you involved with at the time of this offense?
Ricardo. His alias name is Alejandro. That's who I was with. That was Christine.
He was the father of the 17-day-old infant, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And would you just tell us in your own words what happened in this case, how you came to cause the death of your 17-day-old baby?
I was at home alone by myself. She kept crying. I came home from the hospital with her. She had colic. I didn't sleep. I walked a trailer with her all day. I didn't sleep. I was going through abuse with my baby's father. He wasn't taking care of her. I was taking care of her myself. I called the ambulance 3 times. They didn't take her. I didn't understand about colic because my first child never had colic. So I called my mother, and my mother wanted me to take and send my child to her, but my baby's father didn't want me to send my child, so I had to be mother and father and take care of her. And my mind snapped. All the crying and just being sleep deprived. I just lost control. And one thing led
And what did you do when you lost control? What did you do?
I threw her on the sofa bed.
Okay, but that wouldn't have caused your death. So how did she sustain injuries that caused your death?
She fell off the sofa bed onto the floor.
Fell off or bounced off?
Bounced off.
Okay. And what about her arm? She had a broken arm.
That happened at the hospital, because when I had her, they already said that she had a broken collarbone. So
Ms. Martorana, let me just stop you there. That the hospital didn't break her arm, and it's not uncommon for a baby's collarbone to be broken during delivery. I have a granddaughter whose collarbone was broken during delivery. And it usually isn't anything of any significance. It doesn't cause any significant pain because their bones are so soft.
yes, ma'am.
But it's not, so she didn't get a broken arm from the hospital.
Well, when I came to, I picked her up and I must have yanked her wrong. That's how she got a broken arm. But I never meant to hurt my child at all. I'm very remorseful, and I have to live with this every day of my
I
life.
understand that, but we'll get to all of that, Ms. Martorana. But I want to know what do you think caused you to snap, as you said?
But I have mental history of, being in and out of mental institutions, and
What kind of mental health issues do you have, Ms. Martorana?
I was diagnosed with bipolar disorder, ADHD, and borderline mental retardation, and I suffer with depression.
Were you on any kind of medication for those conditions back when this happened?
I was on medicine.
Were you taking medication on the day that this incident occurred?
I was taking medicine out that wasn't prescribed to me.
Say that again.
I wasn't taking medicine that was prescribed to me.
So what were you taking?
I was taking Somas.
Somas?
Yes, ma'am.
And how did you get Somas?
From my baby's father.
Okay. I can imagine having two infants at one time and having one who cries constantly because of colic. Because again, my grandbaby had colic as well, so I understand, the discomfort that the child feels, and the only way they can express that is through their crying. Who did you reach out to for some kind of help?
Well, I had this lady, we called her Granny, and she would help me out. And I had my adopted mom, Bernadette Pontier, was helping me too. And I would call my mama, my real mother, Lisa Martorana, on the phone. And she would give me, they would help me and tell me stuff that I needed to do. And like I said, I called the ambulance 3 times.
Why did you call
And
the
to no
ambulance?
avail.
I don't understand that. When did you call an ambulance 3 times?
I called them 3 different times because I didn't know what to do. I didn't know. I couldn't.
Was this after the child was injured?
No, this was before.
Did they come out,
Yes,
the
ma'am.
ambulance?
Yes, ma'am.
And what happened when they came out?
When they came out, they only told me that she had colic and that to give her some gas drops.
Okay, so why'd you call them 3 times?
Because she wouldn't stop crying, so I needed help.
Okay. Okay. And how long had you been in a relationship with that baby's father?
Yeah, for almost 2 years.
So how was it that you had a baby in the interim with someone else?
I had my son, but my son wasn't for him. I was pregnant with my first child 4 months when I got with my baby, with my,
Well, then that's not 2 years, because your other baby was only 11 months old. And you were already 4 months pregnant then, so that's
I
not 2 years.
wasn't with him long.
You started getting in trouble at an early age. At 12, you got your first involvement in the juvenile system. And eventually you were placed in a Lutheran home. So could you explain to us what was going on in your life that caused you to have those issues as a juvenile?
I was with a foster family when I was very troubled. I was a troubled child because I wasn't with my real family. I was with an adopted family. And I felt like my mom and them didn't want me. So,
Do you know why you weren't with your biological mother?
well, I've been told that the reason why is because her boyfriend didn't want girls. So I was given to my great grandfather, and then my great grandfather wound up getting me. I don't really know the story, but all I know is that I was with them from the age of 7 months till I was like 11 years old.
Okay, well, after you got out of the Lutheran home, where did you go?
I went back to my real mother.
And how old were you then?
I was about 13, 14 when I
Okay.
went home to my mother.
And how long did you live with her?
I lived with her up until the age I was 17.
Okay,
Then I moved out.
and you moved out? Why did you move out?
I felt like I was grown and I couldn't live under the roof no more.
Tell me about your drug use. When did you start using drugs?
I started using drugs at the age of 12.
What kind of drugs?
I was smoking marijuana.
And how does a 12-year-old get involved with using marijuana?
Because I came from the streets.
And what other drugs were you using?
That's it.
Nothing else besides marijuana?
That and prescription pain pills, but I would sometimes I wouldn't consider myself being a pain pill user, but I would smoke weed a lot.
What
And I
about
smoked cigarettes.
what about alcohol?
Sometimes, not really. I wasn't an alcoholic.
Okay. Did you consider yourself as having a drug addiction or an alcohol addiction?
No, ma'am.
No? All right. Well, let's talk about, and you've been incarcerated how long?
14 years and 4 months.
14 years. So let's hear about your last 14 years. I show that you've had a total of 20 disciplinary actions during your period of incarceration. Does that sound about right?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you remember the last time you had a write-up?
I think it was 2014.
Okay, and if I tell you 2015, would you agree with that?
Yes, ma'am.
And do you remember what that was about?
Not going to the kitchen when I was supposed to.
Okay, Why didn't you go to the kitchen when you were supposed to?
To be honest with you, it was for a girlfriend.
I'm sorry. I didn't understand what you said.
I said, to be honest, it was behind a girlfriend.
Okay, explain that a little bit to me.
The girlfriend lived in another dorm, and she lived in Libra, and I lived in Gemini. And I waited for her to go, for them to call her, and I went to the kitchen, and I went late.
Okay. You indicated that you've always had some mental health issues. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And according to your medical records at the institution, they've diagnosed you with having a severe mental illness, but they indicated that it was currently in remission. And the primary diagnosis is that you are bipolar. Are you aware of that?
Yes, ma'am.
What kind of medications are you taking for your bipolar disorder?
I'm taking Tegretol, Prozac, Tegretol and Prozac
Okay. And how often do you take that medication?
every day.
So you're compliant with your medication?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, tell me some of the things that you have accomplished during your incarceration.
I've obtained my GED, my culinary arts degree. I have a CertSafe certification. I have an NCCER certification. And
Okay,
I'm
what did you get an NCCER certification in?
That's for like pipelining um and more like chemical plant. And I'm
Okay,
currently a horticulture student.
okay. Tell me about some of the classes that you've taken over the last 14 years.
I've taken anger management, parenting, substance abuse.
Let's stop right there. Anger management and parenting. What did you gain out of those programs?
I've parent anger management. I've learned to walk away when stuff gets too drastic. I've learned to walk away. I've learned to count 1 to 10, and I've had major anger issues in the past, so it's really helped me out a lot. And by being in parenting class, it showed me how to say more "I love yous" and to take more time care for others as well.
Now your then 11-month-old has been adopted by another family, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you know who those adopted parents are?
All I know is the lady. Her name is Miss Jacqueline Winston.
All right. Do you have any plans to attempt to contact her or the child who would now be 15?
I plan on it if
Why?
you want me to.
I don't want you to. I'm asking you what your plans are.
I would love to contact my child and be a part of his life, but if they won't allow me to, then I cannot make them let me be a part of his life.
So what other programs have you taken?
I've taken
Class. I know you've done a lot of faith-based programs, but what are some of the other classes you've taken?
domestic violence.
Okay, tell us about that. When did you take that and why did you take domestic violence?
I've taken domestic violence because I've been in multiple abusive relationships. And by being in domestic violence, it's taught me how to, when a person attempts to go to use force on you, to walk away and to not be there when that person attempts to harm you, to walk away. And when I learned that using your first mind is always better than using your second mind.
If you knew back in 2007 what you know now, after having gone through these classes, what would you have done differently back then if you had the knowledge that you have now?
I would have definitely walked away and not looked back
Okay, do you know why you didn't do that back then?
because I was scared.
Okay. Well, if, I'm not saying that it will happen because I'm only one person on this board,
Yes, ma'am.
and but if you were to get granted a commutation, what's your plan?
To go to transition.
To do what?
To go to transitional housing.
And where would that be?
I plan to go to Connections for Life.
And who put you in touch with Connections for Life?
A friend of mine that lives in a dorm with me.
Okay, a person still incarcerated?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. What kind of job skills do you have?
I have healthcare orderly, kitchen, housekeeping. I worked on a line crew. I did in a yard. I did garment factory.
What's your current job assignment?
I'm in horticulture.
Okay, and what do you do?
Uh, plant I plant vegetables and fruits, and we till the garden. And currently we're about to actually start class, so it's gonna be a lot of book work, and the second half of the day, we're gonna do planting vegetables and weeding gardens, and that's basically it.
Well, you talked about going into Connections for Life, but obviously you can't stay there forever. So what would be your long-term?
My long-term goal is to open my own restaurant.
Okay, Miss Martorana, let's stay grounded on planet Earth, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Once you leave, if you were to be released and you went to Connections for Life, and when you finish that time there, where would you go and live physically?
Well, they help you with housing, so I would.
So you really don't have anything definite.
No, ma'am, I don't.
Okay. I'll tell you that, I mean, I'm concerned about a lot in your case. But one of the things that I'm concerned about is that your mother, who I know she's on the line,
Yes,
but
ma'am.
when she was asked to comment, she indicated that she doesn't believe you ever should have been arrested in the death of your baby. She says she believes that the hospital was responsible for the death since the baby was injured at the time of his birth. Where did she get that impression from?
Something's wrong with the computer.
Did you understand my question?
Yes, ma'am. There was something going on with the computer.
Okay.
Um,
Why does your mom think you weren't responsible for the baby's death? What
I
did you tell her?
I didn't tell her anything.
You never told your mom what happened.
I told my mama what happened. Yes, ma'am.
What
But
did you tell your mom had happened?
I told my mom exactly what I told you would happen.
That you threw the baby on
Yes,
the
ma'am.
bed and the baby bounced off the bed
Mhm.
and hit its head.
I take full responsibility for
Well,
what I did.
no. But why does your mom say that the hospital was responsible for the
Because
death? If you
because
didn't tell her something like that.
I guess because I'm her child and she believes that I would never do nothing, anything like that.
So what would you tell her today?
That I'm responsible for, I'd say full responsibility for what I've done.
And what did you do?
I, I, I basically hurt my child. My child is deceased behind me.
Okay. All right.
You take it back.
I know. I know. All right, Ms. Martorana, thank you very much. Ms. Renata, that's all I have.
Thank you, Ms. Jackson. Warden Thomas, is there any information you can provide for us?
Yes, ma'am. Just kind of going over, I mean, I know she mentioned most of her programming pieces and, she did have, write-ups in the beginning, but she has done well since 2015. And she's done, obviously participating in a great deal of activities and work activities. So, she really kind of found some traction in 2015 and it's done well.
Good, thank you. We always appreciate the warden's input.
Thank you.
So at this time, we'd like to hear from Ms. Martorana, Ms. Lisa Martorana. Ms. Lisa, could you unmute your microphone? There you go.
Yeah, I'm so sorry. Okay, some of the questions that she was that Ms. Jackson was asking, I was kind of worried because for one thing, when all this happened, I was on the phone with my cat, Michelle, basically the whole night when before the accident happened. Okay, and she did not throw the baby. Michelle had a panic attack and fell on top of the baby. I mean, Michelle even wrote her daughter a letter and mailed it to me, right? And asking for her forgiveness. And it touches my heart to this day because every now and then I go back and I read it. But she says she does not remember what happened. All she remembers is that she was on top. So her saying that she threw the baby, no, because that baby, when the baby was born, the baby had a high fever. Okay. I talked to the doctors. Okay. The doctor said that she couldn't go home because the baby was very sick. The baby wouldn't eat, wouldn't take the thing. I guess they had to put a feeding tube in them or something like that. And they said that they had to break the arm because what happened is, I'm gonna tell you the reason why there's a possibility that the baby's arm was broken at birth is because when Michelle was 8 years old, we got in a car accident and Michelle flew from the back all the way to the windshield and her bottom of the stomach and everything else ruptured a little bit. And it kind of like the muscles in the body was twisted. See, there's a lot of things that's not right, that's not adding up. Okay. I mean, Michelle, she's not a drug user. Now, I don't know about the soma the night before that she took that. I don't know about that, okay? But Michelle's never taken painkillers before. And the plans that Michelle has, if she has to, she'll be with me when she gets out. She said she's gonna go to this it's like an independent living or something like that, change for life, or I don't know. She was just saying that, but that's not the problem. The problem is that Michelle had a bad life. Okay, Michelle was thrown down the stairs from her daddy at the age of 3 months. I called my daddy, which is also my grandfather, because he raised me the day I was born. And I told him, I said, Daddy, I says, can you please come get Michelle? Because Michael came in the hospital the day that she was born and beat the shit out of me and everything else. And turned around, told my mama, my daddy, my sister, I don't make girls. That's not my child. So, I mean, excuse my expression, hon, But I mean, I've been going through so much since she's been incarcerated. I've been going through a lot. I'm really sick. I've been real sick and everything else. But Michelle did have a bad life. My dad, my grandparents, which is like I said, my mom and dad. I was born a drug addict baby. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
My
Ms.
mom.
Martorana, can you wrap up your comments for us, please, ma'am?
Ma'am,
What?
Can you wrap it up for us, please? Miss Lisa, I'm sorry to interrupt.
Whatever. Yeah. Whatever. Okay. I'll make it easy for you. Just case closed. Whatever y'all need her to do, she will do it. I will stick to it. I will be there for her, no matter what.
Great. Thank you, ma'am. We appreciate your comments.
I'm sorry. I'm just going
It's
through
okay.
so much right now because I haven't seen my child in 14 years. You
Miss
know.
Michelle, would you
Yeah.
like to make a statement before we vote?
I'm just very remorseful. I'm sorry for what I've done. It's about it. That's about
All
all I
right.
can say.
All right. Thank you, ma'am. Is the board prepared to vote? Ms. Jackson.
Ms. Martorana, when I read your case, the first thing that came to my mind was postpartum depression. That at that age with 2 infants, your body hadn't had a chance to recover from the first baby before you got pregnant with the second. You were under a lot of stress and pressure, and I don't know whether you just threw the baby on the bed and she bounced off, or you did something else to her. But I think it was a result of a lot of things. It was a result of your mental health issues. It was probably a result of also the postpartum depression. But you were given really a break. I guess the prosecutor must have taken that into consideration because you were allowed to plead to attempted second-degree murder when in fact the baby died as a result of your actions. I commend you for the programs that you have been involved in. I commend you for the fact that you haven't had a write-up since 2015, and that's a positive thing. I commend you for all of the programs that you've taken. But I have some real concerns, Ms. Martorana. I truly do. First, I'll tell you, you have law enforcement opposition across the board, opposed to your release. I'm concerned that you don't have a realistic transition plan in place, that you don't have the support system that would be necessary to help you make a successful transition. And with all due respect to your mom, I think she's an enabler. I think she's denying the reality of the situation. And I don't think that's a good support system for you to have. That's not a person that's going to hold you accountable. That's not a person who's going to give you the strong support that you need. And I'm really concerned about that. And I'm also concerned about your mental health issues and the fact that you've abused drugs in the past. And when you combine mental health issues and drug abuse, then we get situations like you're facing today. I want to encourage you to keep working on yourself. I encourage you to be honest with yourself. And that's a painful process, but it's so necessary for you to be successful, that you stop, making excuses. You acknowledge, if to nobody else, yourself, how that baby died. And, don't let your mom go around thinking the hospital killed that baby. The hospital did not kill that baby. So because of your mental health issues, because of the poor transition and support network, and the law enforcement opposition, I can't vote for you today, but I want to encourage you to keep working. You're still very young, and you've got lots of time ahead of you, so good luck to you. But my vote today is to deny.
Thank you, Ms. Jackson. Mr. Roche?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Ms. Martorana, I'll be very honest with you this morning. I don't think you're ready to be considered for parole. So therefore, I'm not going to commute your sentence. And I'm going to tell you why. I think remotely you might be a danger to your 14-year-old son. If there's a possibility of you regaining custody, I think you may be a danger and you might have future children. And I personally think that you will be a danger to their welfare. You've expressed opposition from every corner of the legal community, the judge, the DA's office, law enforcement, and you have a history of violent offenses dating back to you were 12 years old. Simple battery, disturbing the peace. I don't think you're ready. And for those reasons, I'm going to deny your request.
Mr. Marabella?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Ms. Martorana, I agree with my colleagues. I want to commend you for the work that you've done. You've got some deficits that you really need to work on. I just don't think you're quite ready, but if you continue to work hard, perhaps you can overcome some of those obstacles. So my vote today would likewise to be to deny.
Ms. Martorana, I do agree with my colleagues. I think you've done some good work. And as the warden said, you really got your traction in 2015. So you're on the right track. It's just today is a little too soon. So I agree with my colleagues. My vote today is to deny your application for clemency, but keep working. Good luck to you, ma'am. Warden Thomas, I think that concludes our business at your facility. Thanks for accommodating us today. We'll adjourn. The time is 12:02. Have a good afternoon.
Thank you, ma'am. You too.
Thank you.
This case is just simply heartbreaking, and we'll unpack this by looking at the documents, but in a nutshell, she was, like Miss Jackson said, when she saw the case, the first thought is postpartum depression. I mean, she had, I think it's called Irish twins, 2 babies basically, before the first baby even hits 1 year old. And but then the answers that she gives, and really what unveils everything, was the mother, the enabler. But also, one I think has to believe that she's been lying to her mother about what happened all these years, not taking accountability. And then in this parole hearing, she lied about how the baby broke her arm. In the documents, it states that the arm was broken in 2 places that would have come about when she picked the baby up by the arm after she had fallen onto the floor. It's right here. Facts. September 15th, 2007. She called 911 for a 17-day-old infant daughter. And she lied. She tried to get out of it. She said the baby had choked in the baby formula. When the paramedics and sheriff arrived, they found that the infant was not breathing, without a pulse. The child was transported to the hospital, where further examination of the child revealed that she suffered a fractured skull and 2 fractures to one of her forearms. While the infant was being kept alive on a ventilator, a neurologist test for brain activity reported the child's brain activity was consistent with brain death. On September 17, 2007, they interviewed her after giving her her Miranda rights, which she waived. And she admitted that 2 days prior, she had been home with her newborn daughter who would not stop crying. Claiming she was unable to soothe the crying infant, she was frustrated and she threw her across the room onto the sofa bed. This is what she stated to the detective. She threw her across the room onto the sofa bed. The baby bounced off the sofa bed and onto the floor, hitting her head. Then she stated she stated this to the detectives. She was still angry. So she jerked the child off the floor by one of her arms and felt the child's arm break. She then tried to feed the baby and realized that she was not breathing, so she called 911. These are her own words in 2007. And then she writes a letter to her mother, and forget even that she at the parole hearing says that the hospital broke the baby's arm. You know, there's also just the way the interview went. It's not by someone who was going through postpartum depression and did something so you would think that she would be just completely like someone who could feel remorse, someone who could feel pain. It wouldn't have an interview like that. But she starts the interview by saying, "I'm a little scared." Well, how do you think your daughter felt? She says she kept crying. I didn't sleep. I was taking care of her myself. I called the ambulance 3 times. They didn't do anything. And it's like you're starting off the interview with excuses instead of just complete disgust within yourself, complete regret and pain. And I think the judges just hit it on the head. The parole board hit it on the head. And this was a commutation hearing. Remember, this wasn't a parole hearing. That's why there were 4 judges. She was trying to get them to recommend to the governor to shorten her sentence. The judge gave her nearly the maximum allowed sentence, which says something. 48 years. The maximum sentence was 50. So she was hoping that the board would say, you know what, the judge gave too harsh of a sentence. Let's cut it down to 20. Eligibility for parole immediately. And then if the governor signed it, she would then have a parole hearing, which is typical, which when that happens is pretty much 99% of the time routine. You know, it's almost in the bag once you get to that parole hearing. But like Mr. O'Shea said, and I was thinking this through the entire hearing, how can you trust her to get out? She's young. She's today, at this time, 35 years old. How can you trust her not to come out and get pregnant? You can't take that risk. You can't take that risk. And then I was curious. So I looked up, could a judge order that someone not get pregnant? And apparently it's quite interesting, but it did happen once in 1927, I think, and then the Supreme Court ruled it unconstitutional, and then a judge did it again somewhat quite recently, and it was overturned. So I could put the link in the description. So it's not something that can be done, it seems. And you might argue, well, hey, if you can volunteer for, chopping, for chemical castration, maybe a woman should have the right to volunteer for this to get out early. And I would say, sure, that probably should be something that women should be allowed to volunteer for. We just saw a case recently where a man volunteered to have and that was something the Supreme Court ruled as not unconstitutional, as not being ruled as what's it called? I'm forgetting the legal term right now, but not unconstitutional. And you do have people that do that volunteer to do that to get shorter sentences. And I would argue that this is even a better use case of such a thing, because the danger, I think, is mostly towards her having another child. And if you can eliminate that risk, it just eliminates some risk, but not all of it. But she's where she belongs. I'm just playing kind of like a legal Jeopardy here. The baby was pulled off life support when she was 18 days old. And what makes this case even more tragic is, I think, she states here that she had 3 people who could have taken the baby. I think she said she had her mother, she had her adopted mom, her real mom, and I think she said her nana or someone who all 3 women said they would, when she was crying out for help, they'll take the baby. And she said no. She said, oh, my boyfriend didn't allow it. And it's we've seen over and over and over again where the woman just leans to blaming it on the man, and we don't know the whole situation, the whole truth. But certainly a certain percentage of the time, they're just saying that. They're just saying it because they know they can. My opinion. It's more like an excuse. And she starts off by giving all of the different excuses by saying that I think she even said she's diagnosed mildly mentally retarded. And apparently her judge in the case didn't think that. And I didn't see that at all. We have seen people who are definitely on the questionable lines here, and we just didn't see it. I think what I'm getting at is just a woman who doesn't feel that much for her child, is in denial, making excuses, and doesn't really seem to care about anyone but herself. That's just what I'm seeing, and that's so dangerous. And I'm so glad that the board made the right decision. We had a case not so long ago where a man picked up a baby he was babysitting and threw it across the room. That was a terrible case. I'll link it at the end of this. Oh my gosh. You know, you watch this and you just want to cry. It's like a defenseless baby. And she calls the ambulance 3 times. Imagine how many are you watching this work for as a medic, ambulance, like, and you have a mother that would call 3 times in 1 week. You know? What are you supposed to do? It's like, yeah, your baby's crying. Your baby has colic. I mean, you don't wish that on anyone. It's there's nothing you can do. And I have had close relatives suffer with postpartum depression. I'm sympathetic to it. I know it's a real thing, but the way that she's acting and acted this entire time, it's just like Miss Jackson said, you just have to keep her locked up to keep society safe. She argues that the sentence that it was excessive. That was part of her appeal. Here it is where they talk about that. The court also noted her long-term struggle with mental health issues, which included bipolar, attention deficit, borderline mental retardation, depression, and anxiety. After determining that these factors, along with non-extensional criminal history, were mitigating factors, the trial court nevertheless sentenced her to maximum 48 years. So actually they're saying that they agree that this is actually a legitimate diagnosis. The trial court explained that any lesser sentence would depreciate the seriousness in her offense in which the infant was killed, and that she had received a substantial benefit in pleading a lesser offense. We agree with the trial court sentence. At the very least, the defendant inflicted skull fractures to her infant daughter by throwing her across the room onto a sofa and ultimately the floor before jerking her up and inflicting 2 fractures to her forearm. Dr. Peretti reported that the injury-causing trauma had to be more severe than that admitted by the defendant. It is clear that that her conduct is not properly described by the offense of the conviction. The trial court properly advised of the minimum and maximum sentence that could receive the sentence range under her plea agreement. Yeah, she took a plea deal. She didn't think she'd get such a harsh sentence. Originally, charge met right there. Conclusion allowed her to plead to the lesser charge. But it's just a terrible case. But we can do another one now. Hold on. Okay.
This is the case for Beverly Simmons, DOC 335855. We have Robert Lancaster, LSU Law Professor, Leanne Yovetas, LSU Law Student, Chrissy Jeremy, Hosanna Pro Project, who'll be speaking in support, Beverly Goolsby, cousin, who'll be speaking in support, Viola Simmons, niece, speaking in support, and Jamie Torres, daughter, who'll be speaking in support.
All right, thank you. Good morning, everybody. Ms. Simmons, would you introduce yourself to us? Tell us your name and your DOC number for the record, please.
Yes, ma'am. My name is Beverly Simmons, 335855.
Good morning. Let me introduce the members of the pardon board to you. You should be able to see us on your screen. My name is Cheryl Renatza. We also have Mr. Alvin Roche, Mr. Tony Marabella, Mr. Victor Jones, Mr. Jim Wise. I'm going to read some identifying information into the record, after which I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Marabella because your case has been assigned to him. and he'll lead off with the interview questions. Then we'll hear from Warden LeBlanc and then those folks who've indicated they'd like to speak today. And then I'll turn it over to your counsel to wrap it up for us. And you'll be allowed to make a statement at the end before we reach a decision, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
So you are Beverly Simmons. Your DOC number is 335855. You're classified as a third offender. You were sentenced May of 2002, possession with intent to distribute cocaine, to a 10-year sentence. You have another sentencing date, January of 2004, for armed robbery, for which you received a 25-year sentence, and those are running consecutive. So that's a total of 35 years DOC time. You do have a parole eligibility date in September 2029. You have a good time date, which is October 2029. Your full term date is June 2036.
Yes,
Is all that correct?
Yes,
Okay,
ma'am.
would you answer Mr. Marabella's questions, please?
Yes, ma'am.
Good morning, Ms. Simmons. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir, I can hear you.
My name is Tony Marabella. I've got a few questions I'd like to ask you.
Yes, sir.
Ms. Simmons, as I was reviewing your record and looking at your history, you grew up in an abusive household.
Yes.
Your mom was addicted to drugs. When did you start using drugs yourself?
I think I was probably about 14 years old.
And what did you start using?
I started taking pills at first.
Okay, what kind of pills were you taking?
I was taking like Xanax, Valiums.
At 14, where were you getting those from? Your mother?
No, my father actually was the addict. He had got injured in an accident and he got burned, and then he got addicted to pain pills, and then it went from there.
Okay. How long did you use drugs? When were you first arrested? You were 14 when you started. How old were you when you were first arrested?
When I was first arrested, it must have been about in the 90s, maybe.
Okay,
You
so
talking
how
about-
old would you have been? How old were you?
The first time I was arrested, I must have been about 25.
Okay. Now from 14 to 25, were you using drugs fairly constantly? What were you
Yes.
using?
I was using pills, and I was drinking a lot, and I smoked weed. I didn't get off into cocaine until after my second child was born.
And the first time you were arrested and were convicted, did you go to prison?
I was sentenced to 3 years. They gave me probation, and I think I completed that probation for 18 months. I went to jail for 18 months, and then I had parole for 18 months.
Okay. And you went to prison again another time after that, is that right?
Yes, sir.
When was that?
Trying to think. Must have been 2003, maybe.
Okay. Now, is that when you went through the Blue Walters program?
Yes, sir.
Did you complete the Blue Walters program?
Yes, sir, I did.
Okay. And once you got out from that, you went back to using drugs and drinking?
Yes. Yes, sir.
Tell me about that. How was that? How did that come about? How Blue Walters didn't help you, or did it help you?
I think it helped me. I think my problem was I went back to the same area that I came from. I was around the same people, and I just didn't make it. I lasted like 10 months, and I ended up relapsing after that.
Okay. When you got out of prison after having completed Blue Walters, did you go to AA meetings? Did you do anything to follow up that they had suggested that you do, or were you just trying to do it on your own?
I was just trying to do it on my own.
Okay. Now, how long have you been in prison this time?
18 years.
Okay. Tell me about some of the substance abuse programs you've taken while you've been in prison now, and what, if anything, has changed with you as it relates to alcohol, drugs, etc. Okay.
Okay. I've taken the Living in Balance drug treatment program. It's an 8-week program. I completed that. I went.
Did you
to-
do both 1 and 2? Okay.
Yes, sir. I went to AA and NA when I first got to St. Gabriel up until like 2015 but we got flooded out of LCIW, and then we came to here at Jackson, and I didn't go to AA and NA then, but I'm part of the reentry court program where we mentor inmates coming in that are coming in on drugs, and we also have an AA and NA that we do with them.
Okay. How it sounds like you're fairly involved with AA and NA. Is that fair to say?
Yes, sir.
How important do you believe AA and NA is to maintaining sobriety?
I think it's very important, sir. I think that I have to live with the fact that I'm an addict. And I'll always be. I have to have help. I will continue in AA. My daughter is involved in a church where she facilitates an AA program as a family member of addicts.
What would you be? Let's assume that you're released in the near future at some point. What would be your plan to maintain your sobriety for both alcohol and drugs? Just kind of give me what your thought process is. What plans you plan to put into action?
I plan to go to the parole project. They took me in as a client to help me. I plan to stay there for a year. I plan to immediately get involved with AA and NA and to continue that. And after I'm there a year, I would like to move to Oklahoma where my daughter lives and join the church that she goes and helps with the AA and the NA there.
Okay. I understand that you went through the 9th grade, but you've got your GED while you've been in prison.
Yes,
Tell
sir.
me about some of the other educational things that you've done.
Yes, sir. I got my GED. I've done Life Healing Choices. I've done Hannah's Gift. I've done a 2-year program of School of Righteousness. I can't remember. I'm sorry. I'm about to graduate. I graduate this year in May. I'll have my bachelor's degree in seminary.
Okay. What obviously you've done very well with your education. What other programs that you've taken? We've talked about substance abuse. We've talked a little bit about your education. What other programs have you taken that you believe have been very helpful to you to integrate back into society?
I have taken anger management, and I've taken parenting programs. I also facilitate a single moms program. I got involved with that program because of my daughter is a single mom, and I felt like it would help me a lot, so I would be able to help her.
Okay. I want to talk to you a little bit about mental health, okay?
Yes.
It's my understanding, and I've reviewed your records, and I know you've seen them and you've read them as well. You diagnosed with major depressive disorder.
Yes,
You're currently on Prozac?
Yes,
Currently,
sir.
are you? Okay, and melatonin, I believe, as well?
Yes, sir.
How often are you seeing mental health therapists and counselors then?
I usually see them like every 6 months.
Okay. They have indicated that that's important for you to maintain that and to keep that up. Do you
Yes.
have a plan in place or something that you expect to put in place about your mental health when and if you leave prison relatively soon?
Yes, sir. I intend to go to the doctor and keep up with my medication. And I'm sure the parole project's going to take me to get all that done.
You have a low risk, which is very good. The victim in this case has no opposition to your release if you have done well. And it sounds like from what you've told me and from what I've read, you've worked very hard. Is there anything you would like to say to the victim today if you had the opportunity to speak to her?
I would just want to tell her how sorry I am. I was wrong. I take full responsibility for what I did. And I thank God that I didn't hurt her. And I'm truly sorry. No matter what, I'm truly sorry that I did that to her.
One final area that I'd like to cover. In the 17 to 18 years you've been there, you've had 11 write-ups. Your last write-up was in 2011. So for the last basically 10 years, you've been write-up free. Is that accurate?
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much for answering my questions. Madam Chairman, that's all the questions that I have.
Thank you, Mr. Marabella. We'll move to Mr. Jones.
Yes, Ms. Simmons, how are you this morning? Ms. Simmons, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
How are you today?
All right, sir.
Good. Yeah, I heard Mr. Marabella ask you about your past and you growing up in an abusive relationship at home and all that. And your disciplinary actions since you've been incarcerated. It seems like you've done very well the last few years. What happened? What came to grips with you that made you decide that you had to change you?
I guess I wanted better. When I got this last sentence, I got 35 years. I knew that I had to change, that the road that I was on was not good. And I thank God that I was able to be saved. And I took everything I could here to make myself better. I didn't get a chance to raise my children. I just want a chance to be with my grandchildren now.
Things have changed quite a bit in the last 18 years out here.
Yes, sir, I know that.
Do you think you're ready to face those challenges?
Yes, sir, I do. I think I'm ready. I'm ready as I'll ever be.
And you have a good support system in place, is that correct?
Yes, sir. I plan to go to the parole project for a year. And then from there, I'd like to move to Oklahoma to live with my daughter.
Yes, ma'am. I don't have any other questions, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. Mr. Rechail.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Good morning, Ms. Simmons. How are you?
I'm fine, sir. How are you?
You told Mr. Marabella you've been incarcerated for about 18 years.
Yes,
Is that correct?
yes, sir.
You were convicted in a drug charge, I think, in 2001 and received a 10-year sentence and got 8 years suspended. It was put on probation, revoked, and that sentence was put back on you plus 25 years. Am I correct?
Yes, sir.
According to your master record, you probably have served 18 years, but I think you got some jail credits when you got revoked. And Warden LeBlanc, would you check this because it's gonna help me make a decision. According to her master record, as of June of this year, she will be credited with 20 years served. And is that right, Warden?
Let us look. So was her jail credit expired?
Yeah, they did. They had gave me jail credits that I had when I got arrested for the possession with intent charge. They gave me all those credits.
I think as of June of this year, you will be credited with 20 years served. which is a lot of difference from 18.
That'll be something I have to look into.
Yeah, we'll have to look into that, and double check all of our calculations on that.
Okay. Okay. I understand that you have a permanent plan to get an approved interstate compact to Oklahoma.
Yes, sir.
How long are you anticipating the transition period in Louisiana to take before you leave Oklahoma, if and when you're released?
Well, I know that the parole project will help me for a year. I want to be able to get myself situated. I'll be able to save some money and get myself where I can stand on my own. And as soon as I'm through there, I would like to go to Oklahoma.
Okay. And just tell me the last substance abuse treatment program that you've completed.
The last one, well, I'm sorry, sir, what did you say?
What is asked about your substance abuse treatment program. What was the last one you completed and when?
The last program that I did was in 2009. Except for NA and AA, I did go to NA and AA.
Okay. And which program was that you completed in 2009?
That was living in balance. Substance abuse. I completed it twice.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Mr. Roche, I wanted to say something about her credit that you mentioned, Ms. P, the ARDC manager.
Yes.
Are you talking about possession with intent to distribute in 2001?
Yes.
She was remanded on 3/20/2001, and she was sentenced on 5/13/2002, and she got out. She earned 419 days of credit. At that time, that's on the first charge, which is the possession with intent to distribute cocaine. She had a total of 481 days of jail credit.
Okay.
And that's calculated in with her sentence.
Okay. I see another 266 days on the armed robbery.
She got 266 days on the armed robbery. Yes, sir.
So basically, you add those two together and you're getting about 2 years.
She's full term. I'm sure she's full term on the possession with intent to distribute cocaine. Right. But she's just serving her armed robbery charge right now.
Okay, so her full term date is 2036. Am I correct?
Yes, sir. 2030.
2036.
Yes, sir.
So
2036.
So it's 15 years away.
Yes, sir.
So that's why I'm saying she's got credit for 20 years served.
Okay. All right, but it's running consecutive though.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Thank you, ma'am.
You're welcome, sir.
Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Roche. Mr. Wise.
At this time, I don't have any questions. I think I looked over everything and the statement's been made. I don't have any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Wise. Warden LeBlanc, is there anything you'd like to add?
I do just want to re-mention, most of the stuff that was already said. She's been with us about 17, 18 years, and over that time, she's only had 11 write-ups. She has been a hard worker, both in the classes as well as the job she's held, and she's had no write-ups in 10 years. I know in speaking to some of the staff that she previously worked with, she was always real adamant about wanting to do the right thing, to not get a write-up. She was always real conscious about that in her daily dealings with staff. She is a low risk score. We also mentioned how low she was on her education, that she had to overcome that to get her GED while she's here, as well as be accepted into the seminary school. And now in May, she's going to graduate from that. So she has a lot of accomplishments since she's been here to turn her life around. this time, as well as all the classes and stuff. So I just wanted to re-mention all of that. Thank y'all.
Thank you. Thank you. So we'll hear from the folks who've indicated they'd like to speak, and we'll start with Ms. Torres.
Okay, it took me a
There
minute to
you
figure it.
Yeah.
Um,
Go ahead, ma'am.
so I feel like my mom has changed a good bit over the years, and we'd love to have her here and get her away from Louisiana, just a different surrounding and start over. And like she said, there's an RU program at my church that I think would be really good for her. And so, yeah, I think she would do better away from Louisiana for a while.
All right, thank you. We appreciate you taking the time to join us today. Thank you. Ms. Beverly, can we hear from you?
Yes, ma'am. I just want to say that I am truly sorry for what I did, and I take full responsibility. And I know if y'all allow me to go out, that I'd have to stay involved in AA and NA because I'll always be an addict. Just thank y'all for hearing me and just giving me a chance to at least speak. Have a chance.
Okay, thank you. I'm sorry, I meant your cousin Beverly. We'd
Oh.
like to hear from her. That's okay. That's okay.
Okay. I just want to say that we've been corresponding with each other for the past several years, maybe 10 years. And I can tell that she has worked very hard to rehabilitate herself. And I'm very proud of all of her accomplishments. And I think she will do very well in Oklahoma.
All right, thank you. We appreciate you spending time with us this morning. Miss Simmons, can we hear from you?
Oh, me this time?
Viola, Miss Viola Simmons, your niece. I'm gonna call. There you go.
Yeah. Okay. Beverly has worked hard since she's been in there. I didn't know her very well when she was growing up. We were in the Air Force, so we were always away. We came home once a year, but I think she's done great. She's worked hard, and I think she deserves to be out. I think she has served a long time. She's done all the programs. She has changed tremendously. I started going to visit her. I don't even remember the date. I retired from state police in 2004. And it was after that I started going to visit her in prison until, of course, the flood and then COVID and stuff. But she's come a long way. I think she's ready.
All right, thank you. And we do have the letter that you wrote us in the record. We have that with us. All right, parole project. We'd like to hear from you briefly.
Good morning again, Christy Sheremy, reentry specialist for the Louisiana Parole Project. I have to refrain from saying anything personal about Beverly Simmons, but we do commit as an organization to providing all services for her, being committed to her as our client and helping her throughout her reintegration and what that looks like. Helping her with skill building, our job opportunities, NAAA services, making sure that she remains faithful and committed to what it's going to take in order for her to lead a successful life. Times have changed drastically over the years that we have been incarcerated, and she will learn how to use banking tools like debit card, mobile phone apps, technology, learning how to create a banking account. And I look forward if Ms. Simmons is granted an opportunity to be able to work with her throughout her reentry plan, and leading her to be with her family. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we'd like to turn it over to Miss Leanne. Would you pronounce your last name for me?
Laveris, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am. So my name is Leanne Laveris, and I'm a second-year law student with the LSU Parole and Reentry Clinic. My supervisor, Robert Lancaster, is in the room with me. I assisted Ms. Simmons in preparing for this hearing and drafted the brief. I am prepared to make a final statement if the committee deems it appropriate. Ms. Beverly has done very well while she's been in prison, as has been mentioned prior. She was entrusted to clean the warden's office for 5 years. As she said, she's a mentor in training at the reentry court. And as is also mentioned, her last write-up was 10 years ago. She has completed a variety of programs, including substance abuse, parenting, and anger management. The difference between when she got in and when she came out is how involved with the church she is now. That's what truly saved her, is being able to be involved with all the church programs that are available at LCIW. As was also mentioned, she's very active in NAAA. She knows that once you're a drug addict, you're always a drug addict. She's lost 2 sisters to addiction, and she knows that without prison, it very well she could have been the third. She was active in AA from 2004 to 2015, stopping only because of the flood and her subsequently starting her bachelor's degree, and she wanted to focus on her schooling. If she were to be released, she would go live with her daughter, whereas they've said there is already an AA program that her daughter is part of, that she could become part of in a community that would welcome and support her. As also noted, she got her GED in around 2009, and she's getting her bachelor's degree in May in Christian ministry with a minor in counseling. That's what she wants to do. She wants to share her story and help other people from making the same problems that she did. She's been asked to give her testimony at her graduation in May as well. She has a low Tiger score, and we've seen from several of her family members today that she has a supportive family, and Ms. Christie brought up that she has the full support of the Parole Project that would help her in reintegrating back into society. For these reasons, we humbly ask that this board recommend to the governor that Ms. Simmons be granted a commutation of sentence that gives her a chance for immediate release. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. All right, Ms. Beverly Simmons, is there anything else you'd like to say to us?
I just want to say thank y'all very much. Thank you, and if y'all give me a chance, I'll do the right thing.
All right, thank you. All right, I'm going to ask Mr. Marabella for his vote.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairman. Ms. Simmons, I'm going to move this screen so I can see you, okay? We've got a lot of people on this screen right now. Ms. Simmons, in reviewing your record and listening to what you've accomplished, you have an excellent prison record. You have done extremely hard work towards your sobriety and your drug addiction and your alcohol addiction. You have a good plan to be able to maintain that. You have a good transition plan. You worked hard towards your education. Excellent comments from the warden about what you've done and how you've been in prison. The victim in this case suggested that if you were a model prisoner, she would have no objection to us reducing your sentence. Based upon all of those things, it would be my vote to commute your sentence to allow you to be immediately parole eligible. Madam Chairman, that would be my vote.
Thank you, Mr. Marabella. Mr. Jones?
Yes, Ms. Simmons, I concur with Mr. Marabella. My vote today would be to commute your sentence to mimic you parole eligibility immediately.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. Mr. Roche?
Madam Chairman, Ms. Simmons, based upon all the reasons articulated by Mr. Marabella, my vote is the same, immediate parole eligibility.
Thank you, Mr. Roche. Mr. Wise?
This time, Ms. Simmons, I'm gonna vote to grant to make you immediate parole eligible. And I want to thank each and every one of y'all that's here today for this hearing.
Thank you, Mr. Wise. And Ms. Simmons, I do concur with my colleagues. My vote would be the same, to recommend that your sentence be commuted, that you be immediate parole eligible. So good luck to you, ma'am. Thanks, everybody, for participating this morning.
Thank you.
I don't know who that is. I didn't see him before.
I wish that I could properly unpack this for you, but we could not find any information on this case. I mean, nothing. It's, you know, I don't even recall what happened. Was I was listening to it, watching it, and then just been having problems. The plumber came and I had to talk to the plumber. It was like 5 minutes, and I had the headset in my ear, and maybe because of that, I missed where they talked about the crime, and you just have to forgive me, but either I missed it or they didn't talk about it. But I guess my takeaway here will be it was an armed robbery and she got this huge sentence and no one was hurt. You know, bless the victim for actually making a statement. Hey, if she's, you know, had a good prison record, let her out. And she had, I thought, just a pretty much great interview. I don't know if it can get much better than that. The people supporting her, I mean, it just seemed like to be a perfect package for, yes, give her parole, in my opinion. And or commute her sentence. And she's not in prison anymore. I you know, I'll rage about it forever and ever. It's like, you know, you have people who do the most horrible things, and they get these little tiny sentences. But someone who, when they're like a kid, does an armed robbery, no one gets hurt, and they get the book thrown at them. And I get how armed robberies can be traumatizing, but so can being impregnated by your grandfather. You know, I'm sorry to say it, but we see those sentences get 6 years, and you're just like, what is going on, Louisiana? We could do one more hearing. Let me see, hold on 1 second. Okay, I found this case. I actually don't have any damage information on it, so we'll see what it's about together for the first time. But also just to go back, when she answered the question about being an addict to Mr. Marabella, and she broke down in tears and said, I'll always be, I was just thinking Mr. Marabella is probably like, you know, doing like a tap dance in his head. He's so excited to hear that kind of answer. But anyways, so let's jump in.
Thank you, Ms. Roten. Good morning, Mr. Johnson.
Good morning.
Mr. Johnson, I'll just read some identifying information, ask you to confirm it for me, and then I'll turn it over to Ms. Jackson, as your case has been assigned to her this morning. So you are, yes, sir. You are Rechail Johnson, DOC number is 434762.
Yes, ma'am.
You're here, you're classified as a first felony offender. You were sentenced July 10th, 2000 in Rapides Parish for a manslaughter conviction. You received a 35-year sentence. Your parole eligibility date is June 18, 2028, but your good time date precedes that date. Your good time date is June 24th, 2027, with a full term date, September 19, 2033. Is that information correct?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, thank you. Would you answer Ms. Jackson's questions?
Yes, ma'am.
You're
Good
on mute,
morning.
Ms. Davis.
Good morning, Mr. Johnson. How are you?
I'm doing fine. How you doing today, ma'am?
I'm doing well. Thank you for asking. Ms. Renata has gone over the basics of your case. You pled guilty to a manslaughter, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And you were sentenced to 35 years at hard labor.
Yes,
and
ma'am.
you've been incarcerated about a little over 21 years, is that correct?
22 years and right at 23. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I will tell you that you have opposition from all law enforcement agencies, but they seem to be blanket opposition. They don't address specifically the circumstances of your case. You only had, correct me if I'm wrong, 7 disciplinary write-ups?
Yes, ma'am.
And the last one was in February 13th of 2019, and that was for contraband. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Would you tell us about that write-up? What was involved and what was the contraband?
I was a cook at the State Police Barrack cafeteria, and the officer come and he had told me to come out, and he said that they had me on investigation for accepting some money.
And tell us a little bit more about that. What happened? How did you become under investigation, and what was the outcome of the investigation?
They said what had happened was they said that some fish had come up missing, so they was watching to see what was going on. And what I used to say a hobby craft, and people used to come and give me their orders and things, you know. But later on, after I got here at Hunt's, I found out that someone wrote a statement saying that they had some cash money for me, you know, which I didn't have any knowledge about what had happened, you know.
What kind of disciplinary action was taken against you as a result of what happened?
Phone restriction in 30 days, good time.
Okay. Also, you've been involved in quite a bit of programming.
Yes, ma'am.
Since you were incarcerated. You completed your GED, you completed pre-release, critical thinking, thinking for a change, anger management, stress management. You have training as a forklift operator, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you get any formal training in culinary skills?
Yes, I have a lot in the cooking and baking field.
Okay.
Sewing machine operator.
Okay. And what's your current assignment at the prison?
Right now, I'm working at the warehouse on the compound.
Okay. And how long have you had that job?
Right at 3 weeks. Before that, I was at Gillis. Before that, I was at Gillis Long until this Delta virus happened, and that just stopped us from going out.
So you got transferred to where you are now 3 weeks ago?
Yes, ma'am.
And how long had you been at the previous location?
Worked at Gillis Long right at 3 months. From there, I've been working at the soap plant during the pandemic.
Okay. I also see that you've been involved in a lot of religious programming. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
What have you learned during these almost 23 years in prison about yourself, about the crime you were involved in? Tell us a little bit about how you've grown over the time that you've been incarcerated.
Well, I have bettered myself. I have been attending AA, on a regular basis before the pandemic.
Well, what was your problem? What was your problem back in 2000 or 1999 when this happened, or 98 when this happened?
I was doing alcohol and drugs when I was out. When I got locked up, I just come to my senses and things. And, I just gave everything up and turned my life over to God, started attending the self-help classes where I have bettered myself, and also by me helping others to cope and deal with their situations and things.
They contacted a relative of the victim, his aunt, and she actually feels that you've served enough time. Your risk assessment is low. And as I said, you've only had 7 write-ups during the entire time that you've been incarcerated. Has Mr. Johnson been at this facility long enough for the staff to have formed any kind of opinion about him?
I'm not really familiar with this offender, but the jobs that he's had for Gillis Long and to be at the front area with Prison Enterprise with the soap plant, we don't just assign any offenders to those jobs, I can't say. So those are jobs that no one can particularly watch over you all day, but have to have some sense of trust. And he has to have the aptitude to be able to do the work.
Okay, well, thank you very much. That's all. Is there anything you'd like to say, Mr. Johnson?
Yes, first of all, I want to address that I constant be praying and asking God to strengthen the family members of the victim and, help them recover, get their lives back together. And also, like I say, I was a lot younger than I am now when I got arrested. By me taking these courses and things and have helped me to better myself, and also I have helped others that are coming in dealing with their situations and things. I'm just asking the board for another chance.
Let me ask you one more question. What's your release plan?
I plan on getting out, going back to Alexandria. Also, I like to get a job
Where would you live? With whom would you live in Alexandria?
My mother.
Okay. And what about employment?
I was going to try to get a job at Marco Lumber Company in Marco, Louisiana.
And why that particular place? Do you have any assurances or promises of employment?
Yes, I have an uncle that is, he's been working for Roy Morton for many years, and so he's going to help me to get a job.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much. And if any of the board, other members would like to talk to you, they'll have a chance. Thank you very much, Mr. Johnson.
All right. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Ms. Jackson. I see Mr. Rechail has a question. Mr. Rechail?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Hello, Mr. Johnson. How are you?
All right. Doing fine. How you doing today?
Good. Mr. Johnson, let's address your arrest in 201 while you were incarcerated for simple battery. Tell me about that.
201.
You were arrested, 1 second, let me get these particulars. You were arrested in 201 while you were incarcerated for simple battery. You were in Rapides Parish, and you pled guilty on October 24th, 2001, and was sentenced to 15 days in parish jail.
I can't remember. I don't know.
You were incarcerated.
201.
Mr. Johnson,
Yes, sir.
if you're arrested while you were incarcerated on this term and you were in Rapides Parish,
Yes, sir.
and you pled guilty, and you don't remember?
No, sir. Has been.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Roche. I don't see any other questions. I think we have no other participants here today. So let me ask you, Mr. Johnson, is there a closing statement you'd like to make?
Like I was saying, you know, I'm sorry for what I did, you know, and I, you know, continue praying for the family members and things, you know, that God will allow them to get their lives back together. I'm just asking for another chance.
Okay. Mr. Wise, I'm sorry I missed you. I see you had a question. Would you like to ask it now?
Yes, thank you very much, Chairman. One of the things I wanted to ask you, on the disciplinary write-up you had in 2013-19, you were at the state police barracks. And during the state police barracks there, you was written up.
Yes.
On the write-up you had there, did you plead guilty to the write-up?
Yes, sir. What happened when I went to court, I pled not guilty, and they found us guilty. And I received disciplinary for a phone restriction and 30 days good time.
Right. And you were at the state police barracks during that time. One of the top places we have is the state police barracks if you're a trustee. So and that's when you got removed and sent back to Hunts.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Roche was asking you about the 21. Was that a charge you had before you came in on the simple battery? Did you get in a fight or something in prison right after you come in? Because it's showing on your record. Did you get into a fight after you come to prison? And they charged you with simple battery?
I can't remember what happened there in 2001, you said.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Roche. Warden Gayring, is there anything you'd like to add?
Looking at the disciplinary report from from state police barrack, there's just a 3-sentence investigation that was turned in, but it's only talking about the civilians' activity, but it doesn't directly point at him. So just saying that, as y'all can see, the disciplinary report is pretty, says to refer to. After referring to that investigation, there's nothing. His name is on this investigative report, but it's not, I guess you want to say, pointing the fingers at him. That's it. I mean, that's, I guess, just to talk about the results of the investigation, it's 3 sentences.
All right, thank you, sir.
Yeah, roll that one.
Yeah. Also that he is eligible, parole eligible, 8/1 of this year.
Madam Chairman, yeah, Madam Chairman, this is Warden Buttress. He qualifies for immediate parole eligibility under Act 122. His time was recently just recalculated.
Yes.
Okay, all right. I don't have that information. Thanks for pointing that out. I appreciate it.
Yes, ma'am.
So I guess the board's prepared to vote. Ms. Jackson?
All right, Mr. Johnson, you have done a good job while you're incarcerated. You were a first felony offender at the time of this offense. You served almost 23 years. You're eligible for immediate parole eligibility. You've had good programming. the victim's family member believes that you have served sufficient time. And so my recommendation is that he was seeking a commutation. So, and he's eligible for parole immediately. So I'm not quite sure how I need to phrase my vote for him.
Well, he's kind of like a case we considered earlier today. He's immediately parole eligible. Any relief that he might get would come through that mechanism, probably.
Okay, so then my vote would be to deny your commutation because you're already eligible for parole release. And so the commutation would have no effect. You're already at parole eligibility date. But it's not because I don't think you've done a good job, because you've done an excellent job, but I'm going to deny you because of the proximity of your parole eligibility date.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Wise?
At this time, I'm gonna vote to deny because you have a proxy, you have a good time date coming up pretty quick, and you've done some positive things. This disciplinary write-up been a little problem for me because of what happened during the time. I know it's been 2 years, but you was Class A trustee, so my vote is to deny.
Yes, sir. Thank you, there.
Mr. Roche?
Madam Chairman, my vote is the same for the same reasons.
All right, Mr. Johnson,
Yes,
I'm thankful to Warden Gayran for pointing out the language in the disciplinary or investigative report. You're immediately eligible for parole. Any relief is going to be granted through that process. So
Yes,
my vote today is to deny this application and hope we can get you scheduled real soon for a parole hearing.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, so
Thank y'all for
all
your
right,
time.
good luck to you. Good
All
luck
right.
to you.
Okay.
Warden Gayran, I think that concludes our business at Hunt, so we'll adjourn. It is 10:29. Thank you for accommodating us.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. How can I find out?
Okay, so let's unpack that. One is I have to say I don't have any information on this crime, so I'm sorry I can't provide details to it, and really didn't get much out of this hearing. But there were 4 members on the board, so it was meant to be a commutation hearing, which meant he has a life sentence, no chance at parole. They were going to recommend, he was hoping they would recommend to the governor to commute his sentence so that he could be eligible for parole. And then they found out due to Act 122 that this entire thing isn't even relevant. Maybe you're familiar with Act 122. It's an act that I personally think was a really good act, but it has caused terrible problems. To say that the road to hell is paved with good intentions. And what I mean by that is that we have seen people who should never have a chance at parole because they've done the most terrible things, but they fall under this act and then get a chance. And it's just horrible. Where I see this act being most, deserving is when someone gets a life sentence for a robbery, right? Like this act is basically, now it falls into place it has certain, but basically like in this, it says right here that if someone was given parole for 30 years or more, shall be eligible for parole if they've served at least 20 years of their sentence, right? Or if they've reached the age of 45. Now, some people might argue that this entire act was pushed to save the prison system's money because it's very expensive to house older inmates, and I would probably agree with that argument. The prisons in Angola are most of them, if not all, are publicly traded entities. They're money-making machines, and inmates become more and more expensive as they age. So they hire lobbyists to go and pass bills, and then you have these acts, and then we see people who are now, in some cases it is helpful, in some cases it's not. In this case, you might argue that he served a long time, and there is not victim opposition, and that it's okay. I wonder if, and I'll put the link in the description, if Mr. Jim Wise was even paying attention. He's like, I'm going to deny your request because of that write-up. And it's like, what? Like, you're denying because you have to deny, because it doesn't make any, you're not going to approve him and then write a recommendation to the governor to say, make him eligible for parole if he's already eligible for parole. So I really, like, if you're looking for any evidence that Jim might not be paying attention, I think that was some evidence right there. But he's no longer on the board, and maybe that's why. I mean, but I don't know the answer why he left. There's actually nothing on the internet that really, it's not like there's an announcement that he's retiring. I can't find anything. But yeah, it's, I always like to have information on the crime, to talk about it, to know what happened. We don't have that in this case. Do you feel that he should be? We don't have this parole hearing actually either. Otherwise, I would have covered it here. But he's probably still sitting in prison. This hearing took place, and so there's two things that could have happened in this case actually. So this hearing took place in 2021. So it's possible. Okay, it's possible he had a hearing after, and I just didn't find it because it's very hard to find out. Richard puts it in his spreadsheet based on, and so it's possible we just didn't get to it yet. But if we find it, I'll put it up and link it to this, because the parole hearing might be different than this hearing. You never know. But thank you for being here. And man, I'll go back to the first case, and it's hard to think it was more than an hour ago, but it's I'm glad they made the right decision there. But with that, I'll let you go.